Say it one more time and give everybody a chance. Yogi Mam Api Sarvesham Madgatinam Taratmana Shadhavan Vajate Yomam Same Yuktatamo Mataha. Who wants to try?
Yoginam Api Sarvesham Madgatinam Taratmana Shadhavan Vajate Yomam Same Yuktatamo Mataha.
Yoginam Api Sarvesham
Madgatinam Taratmana Shadhavan Vajate Yomam Same Yuktatamo Mataha.
Ladies, try. If you never did it before, you can try it. It's all right. Okay, let's go to the word meanings. Yoginam, of yogis. Api, also. Sarvesham, all types of. Madgatinam, abiding in me. Always thinking of me. Anta Atmana, within himself. Shravan, in full faith. Bhajate, renders transcendental loving service. Yah, one who. Mam, to me. Supreme Lord. Saha, he. Ne, by me. Yuktatamaha, the greatest yogi. Maktaha, is considered. Okay, translation. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Who's speaking here? Everybody know?
Krishna.
All right, Krishna is me here. It says me, it's Krishna. Okay, why don't you take the translation part by part? And of all yogis,
the
one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga. And is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Okay, purport. Now this purport's a long purport, but it comes in, it's divided in 3 parts. So there's 3 points that I want to make. And I learned once, I heard once that when you give a class, I'm trying to do this now if I can, you say what you're going to say, and you say it, and then you say what you did say. And by then, people get it, because when you're just listening, sometimes they go, what was that? So, this way, this is essentially about Bhakti Yoga in a chapter about meditational yoga. This is about Bhakti Yoga, yoga of devotional service. And 3 parts of the purport. First, the difference between worship and bhaj, which is, bhaj is related to Bhakti, it's devotional service. And then the next one is about the yoga ladder. There's all these kinds of yoga, but they lead up to the topmost, which is Bhakti Yoga. And it tells just how they lead there. And then 3, and it's about Bhakti as loving service to the beautiful personality of Godhead, and it describes Him. And once you see this description, you can fall in love with Him, and you understand service to this person. So then it concludes that Bhakti Yoga is the highest. So these are the points we're going to cover. We're going to read the purport and talk about it briefly as we go. Not the whole purport, we have to listen to the whole purport at once, but talk as we go. So Purport. By His divine grace, yes, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
And I have to say my little prayer. Om Gyana Timarandasya, Gyananjana Shalakaya, Chakshurumiritam Vena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, purport. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj. And I'll say that's spelled B-H-A-J. And bhakti is spelled B-H-A-K-T-A. So, it looks like they might be related, and in fact they are, because you can see the translation is always about devotional service. So the root in the verb bhaj, which is used when there's need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshiping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous. But one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. I'd like to explain that sentence in a minute, so I said I would stop as we go. So we can't avoid serving, or then we're thoroughly condemned. And what we can't avoid doing is serving Krishna directly or indirectly. Because if we don't want to serve Krishna directly, we will serve his energy. And it's his energy, which is matter, which forms our body and our senses. So if we don't want to serve Krishna, we will serve our body and senses. We will serve matter around us. And we cannot avoid that. This rendering of service is something intrinsic to the soul. It's always going to happen. We can't just not do it. We're going to serve. We're going to serve directly or indirectly. And it says without being thoroughly condemned. Well, that means if you don't want to serve Krishna, you'll be thoroughly condemned to this material world. That's what that means. So that's what we're doing here. At some point in time in the past, we didn't want to serve. We can't remember that decision. But somehow, we really decided we really didn't want to serve Krishna. And originally, nothing made us want to make that decision. It was completely free choice. But once we get down here, there's a lot of influences on us, making us still want to not do it. Now we're stuck in these influences in the material world. So that's why it says, one can avoid worshiping a respectable man or a demigod, and may be called discourteous. But one really cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned to this world. So that's what that means. So bhaj here means active service. It doesn't just mean admiring or offering honors or something like that. It means full service. So I guess we can talk about what that service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as we go along too. Anyway, every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means God is spirit, soul, and we are. We're part of him, yet we're parcel. We're always separate. Always separate individuals, yet we're part of him. Because we're made of the same spirit that he is. But we'll never merge with him. We'll never become one with him. Because then how do you have a relationship? You could just merge. So it's all about having a loving relationship. And every living entity then is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. So it's in our own constitution we're intended to serve the Lord, and it's part of us. We can't, as I explained, we can't not do it. We either serve him or we serve his energy down here. Failing to do this, he falls down. There it is. Failing to do this falls down. Where? Down to here. In this material world where we always have to die. We always have to suffer and die somehow or other, again and again. So the Bhagavatam 11.5.3 confirms this as follows. Ye esham purusham sakshad atma prabhavam ishvaram navajantya vajananti stana grishta parantyaraha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. So in this verse, also the word Vajanti is used. That's not identical with Vajate. but it's the same root, right? So bhajanti is the same root, so it's the same meaning basically. It might be a little different in Sanskrit grammar, has a different spelling because it has a different function in the sentence, but you can see the root is the same. So Prabhupada says, therefore, bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or any other common living entity. The word avajananti used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. Avajananti mamudha, quote, only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. So I'll talk about that a little bit more here. So I looked up these words, these verses. Avajananti in Bhagavad Gita 9:11, the translation in the word for word means deride. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. Means deride. And then in 11:53, it's translated as disrespect. So if there's no worship and there's disrespect, then they fall down from their constitutional position. That's what the verse was I just read. So the many modern translations of the Bhagavad Gita that are not done by Prabhupada are done by those who do not have a mood of devotional service to Krishna. They're being independent philosophers and they have their philosophy that they want to promote. Usually it's something like eventually we're going to merge with God or something like that, and which we consider atheistic, because if we can merge with God, then who is God separate from us? So we consider that atheistic, and that's of course not what Krishna's teaching here. So if they are translating Bhagavad Gita in an atheistic kind of attitude, that it's not about service to the personality of Godhead, then they cannot, because of that lack of that service element, they cannot distinguish between the idea of bhajanti and worship. So service and worship. It's contrasting devotional service and worship here. So this is teaching devotional service, active service, trying to please Krishna, do something for him. There's many kinds of devotional service. So we go on. So the next part is culmination of all kinds of techniques. I'm going to define bhakti here before we move on. This devotional service, bhajanti, bhajate, bhakti, is defined one place in Prabhupada's books, at least, as using one's own senses to satisfy Krishna's senses. So, in other words, active to please an active person. Krishna's active and we're active. So we're using what we got to please him. So even though our senses are material senses, we can use them to please his transcendental senses. And eventually we'll grow transcendental senses too, because originally that's what we have. But we're down here, and we're in this body with material senses. But in the eternal spiritual world, everybody has transcendental senses, not just Krishna. Everybody does. But Krishna is the unlimited one. Everybody else is limited and tiny. That's the difference. But he appears individually to everybody. He's not some vast, intimidating, unlimited, but he's an individual person. He manifests himself as a person in front of you for everybody, unlimitedly, in the spiritual world. And he's got senses, and devotees have senses, everybody's senses are transcendental, and everybody's trying to please Krishna's senses. So that's kind of the idea of what bhakti is and bhajanti is. So the culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. This is going to be the second point here, that there is a yoga ladder that Prabhupada talks about in this chapter. So he's going to summarize it right here. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means bhakti yoga. There's another verse where the definition of the word yoga alone means to link with the Supreme. It doesn't need to merge with the Supreme, but it means to link with the Supreme in oneness of purpose or in devotional connection and friendship, whatever, to link with the Supreme. That's what yoga means. Yoga, like the word yoke, like a yoke of an ox, to link. like that. I think they're related historically. So anyway, yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions toward the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga, we'll explain, karma means your reaction to your activities, right? So karma also means the kind of work that you kind of inherit from your own actions. Like you do certain kind of things and you take a birth in a certain type of person, so you have a certain type of duty. So this is also karma. As karma yoga is when you do that duty in order to please Krishna and you link with Krishna. So you're still doing your material duty, and that's still your range of activities, but you're doing it for Krishna. So it's a step higher than just karma, which is doing it for a reward for yourself. Do a good deed and you advance, materially. So this is karma yoga. Let's see, karma yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga without fruitive results, meaning no gain for yourself, not doing it with the purpose of gaining for yourself. So without fruitive results, that's materialistic. So karma yoga is not materialistic. It's the beginning of this path. When karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, which is going to naturally happen, right? Because you're doing something for Krishna instead of yourself. Your knowledge of Krishna is going to grow, your knowledge of yourself as a spirit soul is going to grow, and your renunciation is going to grow. So when it increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called jnana yoga. Jnana means knowledge, so it's a yoga of knowledge. When jnana yoga increases in meditation, the next stage, if you have knowledge, you're going to think about it. Meditation on the super soul, the Lord in your heart, by different physical processes, and the mind is on Him. It is called Ashtanga yoga. That's meditation. Meditation yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Actually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal. But to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. So the yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. So we may not even consciously do or specifically take part in these different kinds of yogas. We may just come as a Westerner to Krishna consciousness and start in small practices of Bhakti Yoga, which is perfectly fine, it's good. Bhakti Yoga is not dependent on the other kinds of yogas. But you find as you progress that you make some psychological progress through these stages anyway. And so I find that that's what happens. So, and to understand those things, to understand Bhakti Yoga minutely. So, the yogi who is progressing along on the path of eternal good fortune is progressive. But one who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name. So sometimes somebody just might want to do a particular kind of yoga and stay there, like karma yogi, jnana yogi, or dhyana yogi, raja yogi, hatha yogi, etc. These are different kinds of yogas that people may stick to and think this is everything. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of bhakti yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga, just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's largest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. So that's the second part, that's the second point, that there is a yoga ladder. There's different kinds of yogas and they lead up on the ladder. Now the last point is all about this person Krishna that we're being devoted to. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shama Sundar, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower-garlanded. Illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahmajyoti. He incarnates in different forms, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. So this is the person that this devotional service is for. This beautiful, unlimited person manifesting in different ways, with different pastimes, different relationships, all to attract us to loving him. So then it's just a few more sentences to wrap up. The stage is the highest perfection of yoga, can be attained only by bhakti yoga, as confirmed in all Vedic literature. And just to keep simple, I'll just read the translation. Quote, only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. That's from the Shvetasvata Upanishad 6:23. So the spiritual master is the one who brings us this, and connects us. So, there's some more Sanskrit. The translation is bhakti means devotional service to the Lord which is free from desire for material profit either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. This is the purpose of Naishkarya. Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1:15. These are some of the means for performance of bhakti or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. That's a hint that there's a lot of different ways to practice bhakti yoga. So we are just touching onto it now in this verse. So those are the 3 points that there's a difference between devotional service and worship, and that there is a yoga ladder, and the other kinds of yoga are only valuable as they lead to bhakti yoga. And then bhakti is devotion to this beautiful, transcendental, wonderful person, Krishna. And bhakti is the highest perfection of human life. So now I will stop and ask if there's questions or discussions. Is there any discussion? How many people have done yoga in here? Yoga. So what kind of yoga?
Bhakti and
Bhakti.
Hatha.
Hatha yoga. How many did Hatha yoga? Anybody did Hatha yoga? Did you do other kind of yoga? Yeah, your hand went up. It's all hand. Somebody's hand went up. No? So yogas are meant to lead to bhakti yoga. All the yogas that we perform, and a lot of people do not know this. So this is a class where we actually have a yoga group here, and I thought they'd be in class, but I think they're not.
Yeah, they left this morning.
Yeah, they left. So,
For me to understand and to get the success in the life, whatever the life is, maybe professional, social, or personal, the easiest way. See, I know that all these things also lead to the success of life, but the easiest way is to self-realization. Increasing your self-esteem.
and what?
Self-esteem.
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 Okay.
And easiest way to know yourself. I think this is the easiest way, the shortcut to get the success in the life. This is my understanding. I don't mean all these things are not valid or not correct. But this is my way of understanding the life or the success of the life.
Can you somehow help me understand what? I didn't catch all the words really clear. So that basically that self-esteem and knowing yourself is basically that's the way. And what is it that's
Shortcut to success in life.
Self-realization.
Self-realization.
Understanding yourself.
Yes.
If you start understanding yourself, you can start understanding the God even. And there are so many ways of understanding the God. It's not the only way of it.
Yeah.
That's my, interpretation of the success of the life.
The body is said to be made of the inferior energy of Krishna, and the inferior energy of Krishna is not conscious in its own right. That's why it's inferior, right? The only reason the body has consciousness is because we're a soul in the body. We fill the body with the consciousness of the soul, right? Is this your understanding?
I fully agree with this also.
Because senses are
Yeah,
there.
then it will definitely help to increase your energy. Whereby you are increasing your peace of mind.
Yeah. So the senses are there, and the senses seem conscious, but so does the computer seem conscious, because we are connecting to it and understanding it. So we are connecting to our senses, and they seem conscious, but they're actually not. They're just mechanical. They're unconscious mechanical things in the body, which is unconscious and mechanical. Only thing conscious in the body is the soul. Actually, two souls. One is super soul, or Paramatma, and one is Atma, the soul. So it's two companion souls in the body, they're friends. But one soul is watching and the other soul is suffering, right? So if we have real self-realization, we understand that we aren't these bodies at all. We are separate from the body, different, completely different from the body. We are eternal and the body is temporary. And we have a friend who is the one we really need to serve. But we're so caught up in our senses, serving our senses and the senses of others, all of which is made of unconscious matter. So the real self-realization, and that will help us. Okay, what the real success is loving Krishna. And real self-realization is knowing that we are eternal spirit souls, not the body, and that our relationship eternally is with Krishna. And then we'll have success in life because we won't have to die again and again. Because real success is get out of the cycle of reincarnation. Meanwhile, we have to do practical things. That's true. We don't want a bunch of failures. We want to succeed in our practical things. That's true. So.
One more thing, I would like to share my view on it. What I mean is, yoga is the connection of reality.
Connection of
reality.
Reality?
Yeah, the real world. The real world. Reality.
The real world. Yeah.
And if you start performing yoga, you feel the reality of the person, reality of the situation, reality of whatever you do at that point of time, and that will lead to a success. Because you understand the reality, what the real situation is.
So what is the reality?
Reality is, there are so many things,
There's an ultimate reality that's not so many things.
That is why the peace of mind. Yoga will lead to the peace of mind, and peace of mind will see so many obstacles, so many options, so many things, and thereby you can, focus the reality, the real situation of that person or that act or that situation, and you may get the result. That's what I'm feeling.
Mind is one of the material energies in Bhagavad Gita. So peace of mind is there, but it's not all the peace of soul. But the soul is different from the mind. Sometimes we think my mind is my soul, but actually soul is different from the mind. The soul can only be satisfied by devotional service to Krishna. That's real peace. So that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches this. This is what we are instructed to teach others. Here in the temple, we're in our Krishna conscious movement, we're instructed by Srila Prabhupada and by Krishna and Bhagavad Gita to teach others that the ultimate is to understand ourselves as soul, not even as the mind. And our success is not even success in this life, but our success is loving Krishna forever. And the soul is not even the mind, it's beyond. That's what we're supposed to teach, this knowledge. Yeah?
Mark, can you explain a little bit more the difference you were saying between worship and devotion?
Worship is like honoring, it's sort of like not involved. You can from a distance worship. You just give some honor, give some adoration. That's what Prabhupada called it in here. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor. But it doesn't have to be service. Worship is not really service. Service is where you're getting involved and you're using your energy to please them, make them happy, please their senses. Krishna has transcendental senses. So, according to this verse, this purport, Prabhupada says that Bhaj can only apply to Krishna, can only apply to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There isn't anyone else we can serve that way. the spiritual master in a way, but that's because we're serving him because he gives us Krishna. He teaches us to serve Krishna. So there's nobody else we can serve in this bunched way. That's devotional service way, only Krishna. And worship, you can apply that more different ways. You can worship Elvis Presley or God, or anybody from a distance, but you're not involved. You're not involved in the same way. So you think that covers it?
That helps. Thank you.
So we're only going to be happy if we involve our natural tendency to involvement, if we involve it in the person, God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, we will never have lasting peace of mind. We might achieve it momentarily, but we will never have lasting peace of mind, and we will always be stuck with the mind. Mind is temporary, it changes. It's not the soul, yeah.
And even if we don't want to worship Krishna directly, we say, I'm not into that. I'm going to just worship my car or my friend or my family.
Yeah.
You still worship Krishna.
Yeah.
Because it's this little trickster thing that's his energy, so you indirectly.
And whenever we try to serve our senses or somebody else, that ultimately comes down to the material. We'll try to serve our senses or somebody else's senses.
So
and the mind is a sense too.
So we might as well serve Krishna.
Right, so we'll understand the real self-realization is understanding that we should serve Krishna.
Right.
And not just worship him, but serve him. It's active involvement. And you try to make him happy in the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare means the energy of God. Krishna means the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Rama means the reservoir of all pleasure. We want pleasure, we should serve the reservoir of all pleasure. That's a name for Krishna. So we may have some success and get some pleasure for a while here and there. I mean, wow, I did it, I got success. The real success is everlasting pleasure, serving, connected to the reservoir of all pleasure. Then our pleasure, he gives. We give to him, he gives to us. And then we have real happiness. Then the happiness we get by material success can't compare. Even material peace of mind can't compare. This kind of rich happiness that he gives. That makes sense to you? I see your head going up and down.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much for listening. All glories to Srimad Bhagavad Gita and to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.